Council members are familiar with this, others are not. Our new council members, Crittenden and Wade are not, I don't believe, are familiar with the Talisman proposal. And
Doug, I can't hear you. Sorry.
That's what, I'll try to lean over a little more.
Still can't hear. I haven't been able to hear for a while. And some people you can, some people you can't. I don't know what's going on. I can hear that.
So it's going through the system, but it's not projecting out to us is the problem, so.
Speak up, I'll talk about it. Okay, this is regarding what's referred to as Benloch Ranch. And Benloch Ranch, as you can see on the screen, is up on the southeast arm of the Jordanelle Reservoir. And Benloch Ranch is a conglomeration of three master plans that were approved, some of them a decade ago or over a decade ago. But I'll try to trace this boundary. You can see the cursor there of the property. It's about 2,000 acres, so starting over at the Highlands and running towards Victory Ranch and down towards the Sorensen boundary. And here. And it takes in half of Jackson Fork, this south half, and then back around to here. So those master plans have a ERU number associated with them. There was a lawsuit and entitlement agreement that basically said these three master plans, you see on the screen there, whoever purchases the property has an entitlement for the densities of those three master plans. So what it is 2,046 ERUs on 2,000 acres. It's vested under the current code for a period of 4 years, less than that now, from the signing of that entitlement agreement. And the entitlement agreement, much to my chagrin, gives me the ability to say you can start at preliminary if you're substantially in compliance with the approved master plan. I don't like that ability, frankly, and it's before you today because there are some changes in, for the most part, the resort area. You can see this area right up in here on the Talisman project. And I wanted to give you a little bit of context before the applicant, Mr. Budge, comes up and starts talking to you. So again, this is these three master plans that were approved and the entitlement agreement. What we're talking about right now is this resort area. You can see kind of on the left screen. Talisman was approved with a golf course and a private ski resort. And then kind of at the base, it had a mixed-use resort area. It's kind of small on the right to read, but I'll go to a blown-up version of that. It's getting a little grainy, but there was a village center that had mixed uses. It had hotel, it had restaurant, retail uses associated with the resort. And you can see some of the things that have been called out there from the original Talisman master plan. Village resort hotel and base spa, highway mixed-use commercial, and various uses. These are the architectural renderings from the original Talisman. And then I wanted to show you Benloch Ranch. So the area we're talking about, if you can see the three, sorry, you can see the number 3. I'm trying to move my cursor, but it keeps moving the slide. So this area right here is what we're talking about. And
that white line, Highway 32?
The white line is Highway 32.
Okay.
So you can see for the most part it's single-family lots, and then those boxes that you can see are boxes that they are proposing to have either one ERU or two ERUs in two dwelling configuration. Maybe it's a townhouse or a condo or something like that. We've gone through and worked through a number of issues on this. This was before you a year ago, and we were talking about product types and layout and densities and ERU numbers. So we've made a significant amount of progress. What's left is this village area, in my mind, as a question of, is it substantially different than the approved master plans? So what the proposal is for that area is, you can see on the lower right, it's essentially individual cabins that would be on approximately 250 stalls there. And these cabins would be about 400 square feet. They would have a bathroom and a kitchenette and a bedroom in it. And these would be on a nightly rental basis. This is the product type, essentially. This is taken from the Jackson Hole resort that the developer owns. So it would be a similar unit and product type in this area. So these are rented on a nightly basis. The fees range from several $100s a night up to $1,700 a night, depending on the time of year. And
that's what they rent in Jackson Hole.
in Jackson Hole, yes. The concerns I have are the calculation of ERUs. I've got an ordinance that states how ERUs are determined, and it's typically by square footage, but there is language in there that says for detached units, it's 1 ERU. So I've got to reconcile that and come up with an interpretation of that portion of the code. The applicant's proposing a quarter of an ERU for each one of these units.
For each one of those little ones you saw.
Yeah. Number two, the standalone units with the kitchenette and bathroom could become long-term rental units. We would be concerned that these become essentially apartments or workforce housing units rented on a long-term basis. Our hope would be that these are rented and there's a transient room tax. It's kind of a timely discussion tonight, but there is a transient room tax for the county. Number three, the property would have to be maintained in one ownership, not fractional ownership or individual units. So it's maintained by the resort entity, one entity. Number four, concern would be long-term monitoring of the use. And number five is timing of amenities that make this a destination resort area. So the applicant's proposal is that this does become a destination resort, and there's amenities there that people come and stay there, and there's things for them to do: pools, clubhouse, fishing, those types of things.
And is that plan big in the plan?
It is. The concern I have is that, when you build a hotel, you're going to build the spas, the salons, the workout rooms, the amenities, the pools that go with it. And you're going to typically build those right up front. With this, when do they get built? And we've discussed this with the applicant, but we're concerned that you put your cabins in there and there's no amenities for decades. We talked about development agreement, bonding form, and those types of things, but these are concerns I have. So the discussion today is whether it's substantially in compliance with the approved master plans. And if it's not, then it's not. It's a matter of it going back and starting at master plan approval, not at preliminary.
Can you give me a history of what else was beyond that? Beyond the little center we're talking about? Go back to that one picture.
Well, you can see that it's...
Beyond this little village area that you said you're not
You want this one? Or
John number 3, you're talking about
This one that you're on, right?
Yeah, I want to know what is number, I can't see those numbers, but I think 4, 5. What's this?
4 is a zip line.
What is this?
there's a
Those are single-family lots.
And how big are the lots?
I think they range in size from 6,000 to 7,000 square feet up to maybe half an acre.
The larger lots get into 2.5 to 3 acres in size.
Okay. And what are the little boxes all around?
The boxes,
Here.
the boxes are building envelopes that could have one or two units in them. So it could be a townhouse, it could be condos, but it'd be only up to 2 units and 2 ERUs.
So is this whole area staying within the original ERU requirements?
Yeah, so they're limited to 2,046 ERUs, and they have got to stay within that. Now, along with that, there's all the constraints that go with that, slopes, roads, ridge lines.
That's why the clustering here.
And we're dealing with all those issues right now, so maybe layout changes a little bit, I don't know. But they still have to comply with the ordinances that are vested under for the 4 years.
So the ERU calculation, they're proposing 1/4 for these little, like bungalow units. And you're not sure that that's an accurate counting?
I'm not sure that by code I can say that.
That's
That's
okay.
accurate.
Can I clarify that? Just, if it were a hotel, if it were one vertical building, looking at a hotel room, we would look at those as quarter ERU. So the question is, by spreading them out into these little teeny cabins, is that equivalent to the hotel that's built in one building? That's really the question.
So there's not going to be a hotel built. This is taking
This
place
is
of
the
a hotel.
Scattered all over the landscape.
The hotel's spread out
Okay,
into little teeny cabins instead of having one.
thank you for that clarification.
What would be the ER calculation on a 1-bedroom apartment? Just for I know it's a kitchenette, but I think it's the same.
It would be a quarter of an ERU for a 400 square foot.
Doug, are these little individual components, are these about a year, whatever we talked about, they'd be built and brought in? Is this the same?
Yeah, these would be built offsite and trailered in.
Did we get the building department? I know they were concerned about control on the other end where they're being built.
Yeah, somehow there'd have to be inspections done on these.
At the site.
Family home. Well, no, they'd have to be able to see into the.
That's what I mean, at the construction
Yeah, at
site.
the construction site, something worth that.
Electrical, plumbing, everything before they put them together.
So is your question right now, Doug, does the council feel that this qualifies as the proper use under the original master plan agreement? And if not, can we answer some of your questions through a development agreement, or are you saying they must go back to the master plan agreement?
I think the decision today is, are they substantially similar to the approved master plans? If not, then they're required to go back and get a new master plan. And it might be the same exact thing, I don't know.
Okay, so then the second part, if we were to say, yes, we think that it fits within the master plan, but we need to answer these other questions, would we do that with the development agreement or with bonding? That's another question that's presented.
That's another question. If you decided it was substantially similar, we're going to work through the preliminary process, and we're going to figure out these things in the development agreement with bonding or whatever it takes.
If we decided that the resort center didn't meet what it was significantly different than the original master plan, would the whole project have to go back for master plan determination, or just the resort center?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that, but I guess if we feel like the rest of it is substantially similar, we could just take the resort village area back.
Anything else, Doug? No. All right, council, any other questions for Doug? You have something, Doug?
Yeah, so preliminary would have to be the whole property. I'm just wondering if we could break out that portion as a new master plan. No, what I'm saying, yeah. So if a new master plan was required for the resort area, we would have to do that, and it would be part of the overall preliminary. The whole thing.
Is this yours? Take this. Yes, me. Watch from viruses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that.
They have to, you know.
If our IT guy was here,
Yeah.
The password, you encrypted all, so I wrote the password right there. I'm gonna hand out paper copies in case that doesn't work, so if anyone wants to just thumb along. So I'm gonna do that while Doug's working on that.
Should there be smoke coming out of that
This is in case of technical difficulties, we have paper backups. Yeah, never had that happen. There you are.
I'll pass it down.
Oh,
If you were here for my presentation, it was actually recorded, so.
yeah.
Good presentation. Of course, this is all case sensitive, right?
Yeah. So
Just one more.
the banks tell us what we have to do with our thumb drives. I feel like we're not even our own entity anymore.
Wait, you have one more?
Yes, you bet. Get in the Scott real quick too. Or John and Scott here, you guys. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Wade H, here representing Benloch Ranch. Have with me Nate Reeve, and if any of our, he's the engineer for the project, and if any of the questions are really specific or technical, or if you want the straight answer, then we'll ask Nate. And then I also have the owner here, Jamie Kay, from Wyoming. I really appreciate Doug's presentation. I think he focused on the nub of the issue that we have before us today, but let me just give you a little bit more background. First of all, we've been working very well with the planning department. We really appreciate their attention to this matter, and so appreciate Doug and John both working with us, Mr. Smith and Mr. Woodard. Also thank Mr. Davis and Mr. Phillips, who've both been helping different parts of the project, giving us some input. What we want to talk today about is the resort concept. I handed out just a moment ago the letter that was done back in 2018 to confirm that a prior version of the site plan was substantially similar. The only reason I did that, it did talk about the concept of a resort with 250 units being determined at 0.25 ERUs. But it is true that the specificity that we now have wasn't available then, so we think it's a fair thing to have a discussion with this group about whether this concept of these smaller cabinets or these smaller detached motel or hotel units makes sense in your county. So we want to explore with you that and explain to you how it's been a success in Jackson Hole and how we're working on a project at Yellowstone, and we think having one here in this community makes sense. So Mr. Smith has already shown you where the project is, but that's where it is in relationship to SR 32. And I'll just skip through this first couple of phases because everything Mr. Smith already indicated is all correct, and it relates to the prior entitlement agreement and the prior setting of the density for this project, as well as the explanation on the comparison between our site plan, which is right here, and also a comparison with the prior master plans. I did want to note before we dive in and talk about this particular pad here up near SR 32 where these 250 cabinets would be located, I did want to clarify that where we have the boxes shown, we wouldn't put that kind of small, thin, skinny product there. That would be more a townhome or a condominium that would go over there.
You
So
mean in the,
up the mountain.
these here?
That's correct. Yeah. And
What are they?
those will be townhomes and condos, and I have some examples at the end of the presentation we can thumb through. And we're still working with planning to make sure that when we go to the planning commission to get our preliminary plan approval, that we have those concepts worked out. So, but we feel like we've made good progress on those. But what we're talking about really today and focusing on is the resort that is going to be next to SR 32. This is the same drawing that was in Mr. Smith's presentation. And our plan and idea is this. We think that we've improved on the site plan from the prior master plans. And the reason we think so is the prior master plans had a lot of density located on a ridge that's pretty prominent as you're driving east on SR 32. Wish I had a pointer, but if you look, it won't work on that. So I'll just describe it if I may. So as you're climbing the hill, there's a bench that exists between the two development pods that you see here. Oh, the cursor, perfect. So I'll mark it with the cursor. This is a bench right here. And this is a road that's been rough cut.
I'm not seeing the cursor.
Oh, you're not seeing the cursor? Okay. Let me pull to, let me switch to this for just a second. Because I think this will be beneficial to everyone as we go into.
Good deer hunting up on that bench, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. There's a bench right here, okay? And this is a rough cut road that goes up to the upper area. So this is the lower area. The area we're talking about today is the resort area here. But the point I'm making is that as you're coming on SR 32 and you're going east, this is a very visible area. And our thought was, while there was a lot of development being proposed in this area, we've moved a lot of the product up on top of the bench. It's good for us because there are great views back to Tim, but also it's good for the view shed down in this area.
Can't see those areas. From the highway, you cannot see this.
No, it goes up over the flat.
And so, and we're still working through ridgeline issues and other things with Mr. Smith, but we feel that that's a good element of this improved plan. So what we're talking about today is really this component right here, which is how do we do a resort that makes sense? Now, one option would be to take the 250 units that we've talked about and put them in one or two hotels, kind of like we see at Black Rock or others. But our owner has great experience with this product type we're going to discuss, and we'd like to explore having this product type called the Fireside Ranch, or Fireside units, put into your county as part of this master plan. So here's an example. Here's the same slide that Mr. Smith showed you earlier. And what you'll see on this is you'll see some ponds, which we'd have to obviously engage in some water rights work to obtain the right to put a lake and pond there.
But for a lot of rain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Farrell, you're correct. But we have planned here a center where you would have all these units owned and located by one owner. So we wouldn't have the possibility of individual ownership. All these would be owned by one owner that would be operating a hotel. And each one of these units, when they're rented, will be paying a transient room tax. Because the idea is that this is a different type of motel or hotel. And you'll have a check-in that you'll go in and check in at the lodge. You'll be given your key and you'll go to your unit. So what do the units look like? Well, here's an example of the units and an image of it from the nighttime. Now, this has been up and operating for a couple of years, and it's been very successful in the Jackson area. Right now, we currently have 25 of these units, and we're expanding this year by another 40. And then we're currently doing a project to install the same product type up in Yellowstone. And the reason why they're popular is a lot of people like this idea of being out separate in the woods, if you will, playing as Mr. McKay has said, cowboys and Indians. They'll come and play, and they're in the middle of in the woods.
Is this picture Jackson?
Is this one Jackson?
It is, yes.
This one's Jackson, yes. So here's another example of product type. Here we refer to it as, conceptual site plan for Wasatch County. But here's the layout for the Jackson Hole product. Currently, the front portion is built, and then we have to do the back portion.
How many are planned for here?
The 80 total?
It's 115.
115 total.
And
So
how many are planned for this project?
250 is what we're thinking about.
Okay. Question, I'm sorry, but my head's just whirling. I know that Jackson Hole has a lot of tourism.
Right.
And a lot of drop, and you've got only 100 and some up there, and you think that you can fill 250
So
in this area?
it's a very good question. The initial plan will be to do 50 as an initial grouping. And we've talked already with staff about the importance of providing assurances to the county that the amenities would be there, so that this would be like a hotel. And so we want to enter into that kind of agreement as part of the development agreement, or later a conditional use, which has been discussed, so that the county would be assured to make sure that the clubhouse is built, that the pool is built, those types of amenities are in place, even as you're getting the project up and going initially. And then in order to maybe build the rest of it, you have to provide some additional amenities. So those are details that we want to work out, but the concept is this, that we would come in and locate the first grouping of these with amenities like the clubhouse, because you have to have a place to check in, and you have to have a place for the people to go, and then
Only the clubhouse?
Well, we haven't worked out that detail, but I mean, there are a lot of amenities on here that we think need to be in place for it to be successful. And so part of the idea would be you'd want to have the people that are coming to stay in this hotel would have the ability to go connect to the trail systems, be able to go to the ski runs, be able to go to Jordanelle, be able to do a number of different activities, both off-site and on-site. We want them to have things to do on-site. And so that's some of the concept. And then this is a much bigger project that's being pursued in Yellowstone. But I think it's important for this group to see kind of what do they look like on the inside. Here's an example of the interior finishes. And you'll see that while it's an aero product, we want to make sure that they're finished very nicely. One of the things you do is you put barnwood on them, you put some of these finishes that have a western theme, and you have it so that it's a nice escape. It's a popular concept with families. It's also a popular concept with millennials who like to book these things online and then go and have, you know, an experience in a small home. These are, you know, under 500 square feet. Here's another artist rendering of them. Yeah. And there's another example. But the idea is you have all these different concepts. And then, again, to the point of Councilmember Crittenden, we need to, you know, include amenities. And this is a concept of some of the amenities we're talking about including. Is, you know, place you go do some stand-up paddleboarding and so forth. I think it's also helpful to see a couple more images from some already built units. You'll see those are nicely finished. You know, this one's in Wyoming, so it's got a flag of Wyoming. And it's a unit that's, you know, has the feel on the inside similar to a hotel room, but then the nice thing is you can go immediately outside. You don't have a neighbor adjacent to your wall. You've got a neighbor just a car pad over, but you got a little bit of space between you. So here's a video that, if I am successful, will run and show you a flyby of it.
This is in Wyoming.
This is the one in Wyoming, yeah. And any one of you is welcome to go and tour it, and just let us know if you want a tour of the area. But I thought it'd be helpful to see a video so you can see how this project, which is in its first phase, is being received.
Oh, look at the very nice.
Private roads.
Yeah. So that's just a small little video tour.